Everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends 6-inch Avengers Infinity War Captain America figure from Hasbro. Now this figure comes packaged in the same style that we've been seeing with all the Marvel Legends. You've got the Legends series logo up at the top. The figure is clearly displayed in the window box. Down below you've got the Avengers Infinity War logo, since this is a movie figure, and then the name of the character. On the side of the packaging you just have some artwork for the character, and then on the back of the packaging you have a look at the actual figure, a brief bio in multiple languages, and then down below a look at all the figures in the wave that you need to get in order to complete that Thanos Marvel Cinematic Universe Build-A-Figure. Alright, let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside the packaging along with the other contents. Now first of all, this figure comes with the head sculpt for the Thanos Build-A-Figure, and I'll be taking a look at Thanos in its own review once I've looked at all the figures in this wave, so be sure to check back for that. Now for the figure itself, we're getting two different pairs of hands. We're getting this non-gloved, closed-fisted pair of hands, and then we're getting this pair of grip hands that has the right hand that is not wearing a glove and the left hand that does have a glove on. And I'm not exactly sure why we're getting this one hand without the glove. I'm assuming it has something to do with the shield. I have not seen anything from the actual source material from the movie itself, the trailers and images, that indicates that he takes his glove off to use the shield or anything along those lines. But again, I am making an assumption that there is a specific reason why Hasbro has given us this right non-gloved hand. And switching out the hands is easy. You just pop off the hand you want to replace. Now with the gloved hand, you can only pop off the actual hand itself. You still have the back portion of the glove on the arm when you pop it off, but then you pop on the hand you want to replace it with. Now one thing I do want to note about these non-gloved hands, the skin tone on the non-gloved hands do not actually match the skin tone on the arm of the figure. It is a different color, and it is kind of noticeable, especially in the light. So again, I just wanted to note that. Okay, and then the final accessory the figure comes with is the Wakandian shield that we see in the trailers. Now, I'm not 100% clear if there's supposed to be one or two of these. It looks like at times he's just got one, and then there's a time where he's running through the jungle where it looks like he has smaller versions of this on both arms. Now, my understanding is the shield basically can kind of shrink down. So we see at one point where this end tip kind of extends out. The shield itself is just one solid piece, and then we only get one. So again, I don't know if we're really supposed to get two or just one, but as it is, the figure only comes with one. And it's made with just a rubber material, so you do have some flexibility with it. No detailing on the underside. You've just got the handle. There's no kind of peg or anything. You've got the pointy tips here at the end. Again, these are made with just rubber though. And then you've got the line work that's actually sculpted on the shield, and it's done with this kind of metallic bronze silver color, and is got some darker wash mixed in. I'm assuming this is made with vibranium, but again, that's just an assumption on my part. Now as long as you have the grip hands on the figure, he'll hold it in the left or the right hand, but I'm assuming he's really meant to hold it in the right hand with that non-gloved hand. It definitely looks better when you cover up the non-gloved hand, so my recommendation would be when you're displaying the figure to put the shield on the right hand. Now for the figure itself, starting with the head sculpt, unfortunately I can't really sit here and tell you that this head sculpt looks like Chris Evans to me. It actually looks more like Hasbro's own Dwight Stahl from the Marvel Legend team. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but again, I don't really think it looks like Chris Evans. And Hasbro has tried to give us Chris Evans unmasked head sculpts in the past and really not ever done a very good job. The only one that's given us a very good looking unmasked Chris Evans head sculpt was Tomasi Nations with their SH Figure Arts line. Now with this one, we've got the full-on beard and his hair's kind of sticking up. It is a darker color with the hair that we've seen before, and I like the texturing with the beard and everything, and you can see his eyebrows pretty good. Skin tone's not too bad, but again, I don't really see Chris Evans when I look at this head sculpt. Now for the rest of the figure, surprisingly, this does not appear to be the same sculpt that we got previously with the Civil War or the Avengers Age of Ultron figure. which is kind of weird since it is the same costume primarily, but it looks like Hasbro's actually given us a new mold with new sculpting detail. It looks very similar, but when you look at it closely, it is definitely a different figure. Even like the belt looks a little different, and the boots and everything, the legs are different. So again, this seems to be primarily a totally new mold here, though looks very similar to the previous one that we've seen. Now, I don't know if in the movie they maybe refer to Steve Rogers with this look as Nomad. That's what it kind of reminds me of. In the comic books, Captain America is actually the first person to assume the identity of Nomad, and even though this isn't what he looks like in the comics when he's Nomad, this kind of without the markings, the star has been removed from the costume, and just the dingy look with the beard and everything, that's what it kind of reminds me of. So I'd be curious to know if they refer to him at some point in the upcoming movie as Nomad, as a comic book Easter egg. Nevertheless, the figure, again, even though it seems to incorporate a new mold here, looks very similar to that previous Civil War figure. You've got the star on the chest, which is sculpted. Well, the section where the star would go, which again, I guess he's removed for some reason, I guess because he's been kind of disgraced and on the run after the events of Civil War. And then he's got these shoulder pads, and he doesn't have the A marking for the Avengers anymore. He's got this belt, which is a separate piece. Again, it does look like a little bit different belt than what we saw previously. It's a different buckle and everything, so it's not the exact same belt. And you've got the silver on the back here, which is similar to the previous figure, but again is different. And you've got different sculpting markings on the back here. And the legs are different. You don't have those markings like you saw on the previous figure on the legs. You do have the striping down the leg, and he's got the knee pads, and then he's wearing the brown boots, which again are actually different. They do look different from the boots that he was wearing with the previous figure. And then here's a comparison. This is the Age of Ultron version, which had the brightest colors of the three. And then we have the Civil War version, which had darker colors, but then we have the Avengers Infinity War version, which has the darkest, dingiest colors of all, which is actually accurate. I think between these two, this one was more movie accurate. His colors were never really that bright in any of the movies. That's just how Hasbro chose to do the first Age of Ultron version. But this one definitely, I think, is pretty movie accurate to how the costume looks in the upcoming film. And then size-wise, between the three figures, they're pretty much the same height. The Infinity War figure is maybe a hair taller because his hair is actually sticking up, but otherwise they're pretty much the same height. Now this figure stands just under 6.5 inches tall. Okay, and here's a comparison showing off all the various incarnations of Captain America from the movies in figure form. Now I don't actually have the 6-inch Marvel Legend version of the Captain America First Avenger from the first movie, so I've got this Marvel Select version standing in, and then we've got the Hasbro 6-inch Avengers First Avengers movie Captain America, the Winter Soldier Captain America from Age of Ultron, Captain America from Civil War, and now Captain America from Avengers Infinity War. And then finally, here's a comparison with some other movie figures of characters you see Cap doing around with in the Infinity War trailers. And overall, I would say the scale between these figures is pretty good. Okay, so for articulation, you can turn the head to the left and to the right. It's on a ball hinge joint, so he can look down good, and he can look up pretty good as well. You really can't pivot to the left and the right with this one, though. Arms attached with your standard ball hinge joint there at the shoulder, so you can get his arm out good. He's got good rotation there. He's got a bicep swivel, double hinged elbow, so good bending there at the elbow, rotation at the wrist, and hinges on the hands, so you've got up and down movement there with the hands. He has an ab crunch type joint, so he can crunch forward pretty good, and he can look back about that much there at the midsection. He's got a waist swivel, so he's got rotation there. He can do the splits that much. You can get the leg forward pretty good, and then you can do the leg out and back. He's got a thigh swivel, double hinged knee, so good bending there at the knee. He does have a boot cuff swivel, hinges on the feet, so up and down movement, and he does have ankle pivot, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I would say this is a pretty decent figure. Yeah, Hasbro did kind of miss the mark with Chris Evans' head sculpt once again, but otherwise I think it's a good representation of how Cap appears in the upcoming Infinity War movie. It is kind of interesting that they have essentially given us a new sculpt and not just repainted the previous Civil War / Age of Ultron sculpt, which I think they could have easily gotten away with had they chosen to. The shield is a pretty good representation of what we see in the trailer, though though, it would have been cool if they had added a feature of being able to extend out that tip, kind of like you see Cap doing in the trailer. But as it is, like I said, overall I think it looks pretty good. Now this figure, along with the rest of the wave, has started to see at least a limited release here in the United States. I've heard reports of people finding them at Walgreens. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. Also, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.